to keep them on tonight, okay? I'm talking about a subject on tonight that can be touchy, but it's needed within the body of Christ, and it's needed in these walks of life in this day and age. I worked for the state of Connecticut for 33 years where I did elderly protective services. In the course of that time, in that era, it was like in the early, what was it? Late 80s, early 90s, where the whole concept of sexual harassment really came to the forefront. Did anybody know what sparked it? No, before Bill Clinton. Bingo, Clarence Thomas. That's what really got this whole thing visible. Not that it wasn't happening before that, but it was because it was such a high-profile case. It got the whole concept of sexual harassment so much media coverage and so much exposure. So now it was in the forefront, and people began to say, legislatures began to say, we've got to do something about it. We've got to educate people. So I worked for the state of Connecticut doing elderly protective services. I was a social worker. And because the state of Connecticut has so many employees, what they did was they brought in what was called train the trainers. They brought in professional organizations to train staff in sexual harassment because they couldn't get to everybody. So I went into that program and I began to train officers all over the state of Connecticut and prepare the supervisors, management, and staff in what is sexual harassment, what's appropriate, and what is not. Once I retired, I was still working, and then I got a call from the New Haven Fire Department. I did their trainings because, again, now we're talking about a profession that was once predominantly male. Now they've incorporated women. So now the locker rooms have to change, the language, some things that was once acceptable because you got all male. Now that you've introduced females into the mixture, those things may or may not be necessarily appropriate any longer. So they had to be taught what was now the appropriate behavior in mixed culture. Question to you. Does New Beginnings have a stance on sexual harassment? Do they? What is it? Do you know it?
Our stance on sexual harassment?
Yes.
That it has to be reported, and it's not allowed.
Bingo. Every member of your church should know that you have a zero tolerance. That's the key words. Zero tolerance for it. And often we get misconstrued about what sexual harassment is. And I have this big, thick manual, so we're going to be here on that. I had to do that. Scared somebody, didn't I? See, I had a sense of humor when I wasn't saved. The Lord let me keep it, so I can't help it. Amen. And you need some levity when you're talking about a very serious subject. But let me just give you some background into the whole idea of where the laws came from regarding sexual harassment. It was incorporated in this. Have you had this series with me before? Because 1, 2. Did you remember anything I said? Okay. All right. We'll give you a little quick quiz. Under what legislative law does sexual harassment fall? For those who did this before, see how much you remember. Huh? No, that's something else. No. I said, what law? Anybody remember? Okay. It falls under the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is Title VII. Title VII was dissolved to stop discrimination in the workplace based on race. It said basically it was to eliminate the utilization of formal and informal remedial procedures regarding discrimination in employment based on race, color, religion, sex, and national origin. That's where, when you file a sexual harassment suit, it's based under this law. So there's law to back it up. But the caveat to all this is that when this law was initially written, it did not include sex. It did not. You had some very agitated conservatives who did not want this act to pass regarding discrimination and bias in the workplace in terms of race and national origin. So what they did in an effort to sabotage this and keep it from going forward, they said, well, throw sex in and it'll never pass. If we say that you can't discriminate based on sex, it will never pass. Well, lo and behold, it did. Thus, this is where it falls. When you get a lawyer, he's going to go to battle. This is his law that backs it up. And each state has a form of this law. This is law, but each state can adopt and tweak their own specific relevant to their state. Okay? But this is where it falls. The idea is that you have to understand sexual harassment is very broad. It encompasses a lot of things. And we get caught up into the fact that, oh, well, they said something to me I didn't like. Right, that's one. But that's not all it is. And how many know that there is a difference between sexual harassment and sexual assault? What's the difference? Touch. That is the difference between the two. It's the touch. When I touch you, now I have physically assaulted you. When I have touched you without permission on my physical being, then you have sexually assaulted in my purview, and I can claim that and be right. So we have to understand that there's a lot of things that go under sexual harassment. Assault is different, but sexual harassment is very, very broad. So when you go into areas such as the fire department, I'll use it as an example. I'm going to keep this real simple so we can just get the basic understanding of this. They were so used to having all men, they told all kinds of jokes. I mean, even the drill sergeants, I mean, they were cursing at the men, and they were saying all kinds of things that was locker men's talk. Let's put it that way. So now you have women that have come into the workforce. They've got nude pictures hanging up on the walls. They're saying they're telling all kinds of jokes. And now for the women, they're just, oh, come on, you just love the guys. Well, no, I'm not. And for me to hear this, for me to see this, it's uncomfortable. And for me, being in this atmosphere where you're talking and you're saying lewd things and you've got posters of women all up over that are very compromising, for me, it creates a hostile environment. And what is a hostile environment? Hostile environment is when I feel uncomfortable going to work. I don't like going because I don't like the environment. I'm uncomfortable. That's a hostile environment. Did you know that's constituted? That falls under sexual harassment. Wow. So I'm saying, I'm giving you the bare bolts because we overlook those little things. We overlook them. We have someone in our church right now in Hartford who I'm just giving information to because he's got a suit against Dunkin' Donuts. And the situation was he would go to work. And granted, you can't always look at somebody because they may act a certain way or speak a certain way. You can't label them. And when you do that and you make jokes and you have things to say every time they come around, that creates a hostile environment for that individual. And as a result, they just kept doing it. Why aren't you not girlfriend? Why aren't you did this? You must be. I mean, they harassed this young man something terrible. To the point where one of the employees, the manager, ended up punching him. Wow. He ended up punching him. The young man did not retaliate. Okay? Went to management, told him, they fired the manager. A few days later, week later, they came back and fired him. And rolled up that his conduct was unbecoming an employee. I said, whoa, back up. There's something wrong with him. He's got a lawyer. And I said, first of all, you're going to get him just on the post. You can get him, first of all, he violated you. He punched you. Black as I can get stitches. Okay? And he gets fired because he didn't punch him back. Because he stood and took it. And my behavior's unbecoming. and I'm the one who was assaulted. There's something wrong with this picture. He's got documentation of how they harassed him at work. I said, oh, no, you got a good suit, sweetie. I said, you got a good lawyer. You tell me what your environment was when you went to work every day. And how they physically taunted you, verbally taunted you. You've got a sexual harassment suit on top of everything else. So it's important to know what your rights are and what falls under what purview so that you can be protected. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. Because it's very, very broad. And people don't understand half the time that a hostile environment is one of the ones we overlook every time we talk about sexual harassment. But the other thing you have to understand, especially in the church, and why do we need sexual harassment in the church? Because church got more lawsuits than anybody. We got more lawsuits than anybody for sexual harassment. And if people were aware, we wouldn't have so many. I tell you basic bare bones. To save yourself and to protect yourself. Remember this, if you don't remember nothing else I'll say tonight. If you have to think about it, don't say it. If something's getting ready to come out my mouth, and it may be a little off color, and even if I think I'm telling it in a little jokey joke, if I have to think about it, then don't say it. Because that's your spirit, that's no spiritual here, is telling you something wrong with it. You about to get in trouble. Don't say it. The tone of which you say things, the if gives another inference. What do you mean? What do I mean? If you say, oh, Jesus, the boy, you're very nice to have red food, I would say thank you. You say, Jesus, the boy, girl, you look good in red food. I said the same thing twice, didn't I? But boy, how did I say it the second time? You see what I'm saying? The inference, the tone. Now that made me uncomfortable. Because at that moment, I'm like, well, daggone, you undressing me right now? Can I say that? But you see what I'm saying? It's basic little things. Your tone, how you say things, the inference. Because what you say and how I perceive it, that's where the gap comes. Intention and perception. Those are the biggest stop gaps when it comes to a hostile environment and unwanted advances. Because sometimes it's just a miscommunication. What your intention was may be one thing, but how I perceive it can be another. So the best thing is if the two parties can come together, even with a neutral party, and figure out what was the intention and what was the perception, then you wouldn't have a problem. In our churches, one of the biggest atrocities we do to me, and this is to me, and it's with our children, because we teach our children, young and old, teenagers, to respect the leaders of the church, don't we? Respect the leader, do what they say. That's not carte blanche anymore. Respect the leader, do what they say. But if they tell you something don't seem right, you come tell me. We leave out that piece. And when you tell your child and you tell them you do what so-and-so tells you to do, you're setting them up. You're setting them up. Because everybody in church ain't saved. Everybody in school ain't educated about the child speaking the best heart. But we taught our children, be obedient to your elders. Do what they tell you to do. And that's why we've had so many children who suffer in silence. That's right. Because we never added the other piece. But tell me, even they write it, I'm going to listen. And I'm going to believe you. And everybody know their child. Everybody knows their child. You know your child was spooky or not. Come on. We know if he tells me one of them tall tales or these cupcakes somewhere. But you listen. We set our children up. We pay attention. You don't let your young kids go back and by themselves. That's right. You don't send them with Joe Schmo who you just met yesterday. You're setting them up. And now they become, later on, they become predators. Because someone We've got to educate our children. But if we're not educated, how can we educate our children? If we are not comfortable saying, don't let somebody touch you there. You have women who cringe because a man said something inappropriate. And if you're grown and do that, what do you think our children do? Every woman in here is at one point, or and men, because women do it to men all the time. You see, if you got a wife, I said, Bishop Milton, he ain't got to worry about that. Because the sister of Milton's ain't like me. We just give you a good old dose of fish soup and it fall over. No, I'm only kidding. I should say that. But men get harassed also. It does happen to them. Women, you're your husband's covering. Mothers, you're your children, your sons and your daughters covering. And then women are intimidated because they think, first thing women do is they think, what did I do to make lead him on? What did I do to make him think he could say that to me? You didn't do anything, he was just a hound. Right. Call it what it is. And if it's making you, let me tell you something. If it's making you feel uncomfortable, it's not flattering. Wow. It's not flattering. If it's making you feel uncomfortable and you feel uneasy and you think about it, it's not flattering. It's wrong. And don't ever be afraid to tell somebody. Now, the key thing is who you tell. Now, you're not going to tell Susie Time Cry. That's why you got a pastor. That's why you got a first name. Because see, Susie Time Cry, girl, it's too much for you to hold. You know she can't. She will be like a dog in the refrigerator. And every time that dog spill open, she gonna spill out some more. And then when she spills out, she gonna add something to it. It ain't gonna be nothing like what you told her. You don't know. Ain't gonna be anything like what you told her. So you talk to your pastor about it, you talk to your first lady, and make them aware, you know what? I'm not being extra. I don't think I'm being too sensitive, Pastor, but every time Brother so-and-so comes and shakes my hand, he always want to shake my hand and rub my arm at the same time. I don't like it. Pastor Sarah, right out there. Now, let me tell you how leaders are supposed to handle this. And this part is extremely important. If you have a situation such as that, and you decide that you're going to confide in your leader about what has happened, how you feel, and the fact that you don't like it, as a leader, whether it's a young girl who comes to you as one of the evangelists, whether whoever it is who comes to you, in your leadership capacity, hear me well, in your leadership capacity, you have an obligation to say to that individual, how do you want me to handle it? Because when you say, okay, I'm going to take care of it, I'm going to do this, and this, you know what you're doing? What's that? No, not necessarily confidentiality. It's something very important that you do. What?
Take a side.
That's part. What else?
You got to hear both parties.
Huh?
You got to listen to both parties.
True, but she has come to me and said, the situation's going on. I'm the leader. And she says, I'm upset. This is what has happened. What is my responsibility to do first and foremost? I'm going to tell you. To ask her or him, how do you want me to handle it? Because what you do when someone tells you something, and you say, this is what I'm going to do, you further victimize the victim because you have taken their power and have not consulted them as to what they want to handle. Because what you might do is not what they want done. They might just want to tell you. And in telling you, have your ears and eyes open and you watch. That's the best thing to do. Watch. See it for yourself. You know, I have those spidey eyes. There's certain you just watch and your radar goes up. And when you see it, you say, whoa, 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 whoa. I see that. I've seen it. Now you haven't said she said anything to you. You saw it for yourself. But if someone says, I'm telling you, but I don't want you to do anything, then you can't. Because to do anything victimizes them even more. So you see how important that is? These are just simple things as leaders that we miss out on. Because we get a situation or circumstance, and man, we want to get the pick and shovel and just casket out, and we're going to bury them alive. But that's not what the individual wanted. They wanted to be heard. They wanted somebody else to watch and see if they saw it for themselves. Very important thing, especially for leaders. Because you're going to hear about things. And as leaders, the biggest thing is confidentiality. As a leader, when someone's telling you something, you have to get their really permission to repeat it. As a leader. Can I share this? Now, I'll be honest with you. When someone comes to me and says, oh, Sister Bull, can I tell you something? I said, well, it depends. I said, now, I can't promise you that I ain't going to tell the pastor. Because it depends on what it is. Because at the end of the day, he's the head and he has a right to know, because he doesn't need to be blindsided. Here I'm sitting on a keg of dynamite and it done blew up and he said, where did that come from? I didn't even know I was in the building. He has a right to know. So it's very, very slippery slope. So when someone comes to me, I say, I tell you how it depends on what it is. Because you ain't going to burn me down carrying that keg of dynamite, and at one point you decide you're going to flip the lighter on me. It ain't going to happen. I don't think so, my sister. You know how we do. Yep. I'm going to tell you, but I ain't going to tell nobody. I'm there to tell 12, 20 other folk. So I tell them, I'm upfront. I can't promise you that. It depends on what it is. If it's life-threatening, if someone's in danger, I have an obligation to let the man of God know, because he watches for all of us. And he, as a leader, is never, ever to be blindsided. Ever. He's never to be put in a spot where he can say, I didn't know. When did that happen? Because now, what does he look like? Like he's not in control. So it's important. Two things. You got to check with the individual, but let them know up front. I will tell them. I can't promise, depending on what. Now repeat it after me. I can't promise, depending on what it is. Now you've already given them a disclaimer, and if they still decide to tell you after you say that, then okay. Because now you put it out here that what you tell me is subject to me being repeated to me, from me, to the pastor. You've already given that disclaimer. Very important. I'm telling you ways to avoid being in situations where sexual harassment can be an issue. In the workplace, mostly in corporate, you deal with the second kind. There are two kinds of sexual harassment. Really. The first one I gave you was the hostile environment. And usually that's, making it uncomfortable, person to person, employee to employee, things like that. It could be any number of people. But the second is what's called quid pro quo. Quid pro quo. It's a this or that. And that can only exist when one person has more power over the other. And if you don't submit because I have the power, if you don't do and submit to what I say do, then there could be consequences and repercussions. You can lose your little title. You can lose your position if you don't do what I say. That's quid pro quo. That's the most dangerous. Because it happens in the employment world, in the secular world most. Because people need their job. They don't want to lose the income. So they go along until they find something else, and then later they start telling about what happened. Because then people do you see all these sexual assault, the Me Too movement? People are now coming out of the woodwork because there's a support system that was never in place before. So people were silent sufferers. There's quid pro quo church. Pastor, the choir director. If he's the choir director, the president, you want to sing that song? And I'm singing that important to you, honey, you better sing in the shower, because ain't nothing. You ain't gonna pick me out for a song. Come on now. I told y'all I ain't got good sex. You will not pick me out for a song. Well, you so thing. You can beat me behind the choir stand. You know, that solo gonna be yours. I'll sing in the shower first. And you niggas go right in, it'll sound good. But you see how people get caught with things? And people who institute or use quid pro quo, they prey on people who are weaker, who are looking for validation, who are looking to be made to feel good. They do that to people who have low self-esteem. And the bottom line is, we are marvelously made. There is no reason why any child of God should feel less than and allow anybody to pimp them out. For anything. For anything. Say no. It's not what happened. I had a situation with this preacher. Every time we did what you call, he had to come up to me and shake my hand. And you know those scratchy parts thing. You young people don't know about that. You all did, you all you know. They shake your hand, they give you little scratchy instead of your palm. Well, me being me. I have this reputation for acting first and telling my husband second. I've had enough, and I played it off. Thinking how did I get sick of it? He scratched my palm one time. I said, do it again, I'm going to punch you right in the face. Do it again. So I went to my husband, I said, I want you to know, I just told other souls, so I was going to punch him in the face. He said, what? But that's me. Everybody ain't like that. He said, well, you did the right thing. He said, but I don't talk to him too. See, that's what you do. When you do something, don't hide what you did and what you said. Tell somebody else. Because half the things that people do, they don't report it. So you tell somebody else and they say, who did you tell? Nobody. They're going to have to shut me up. Nobody. You better tell somebody. Taking advantage. So you have a hostile environment and you have quid pro quo. And then you have so many other circumstances that exist within this whole microcosm of sexual harassment that we really have to watch what we say, how we say it, and how it comes across. Don't be afraid to ask somebody, did that sound right? Or don't be afraid if you say something, you're going to check. You say, did I offend you what I just said? Don't be afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to backtrack. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to be able to do that. When you're filing a sexual harassment suit, you can do it anytime you get good enough. In the employment, within the church, it's a little bit different because they have a structure within the church of how that's done. You go through your pastor handles it certain ways. Now, in handling it, you have to be very careful about how you handle it because there are two sides to every story, correct? You can't make me guilty without letting me be heard. Every accuser has the right to face their accused. They really do. Now, if you go to the pastor anonymously and says, well, I'm telling you this, but I don't want nobody to know it was me, then he has to do like they do in the workplace. He sends out that proverbial memo that says, listen, everybody, ain't gonna be no more so-and-so and so-and-so. This way he can highlight you. But now if they still don't get it, he has to be very careful, because he can't put a sanction or even or do something without just cause to an individual and their right to be heard. That's important, because the individual has rights too. And that's why I said a meeting of the minds has to occur, because sometimes it could be what I said was not what you perceived. So it has to be a meeting of the minds. But if I tell the pastor that brother so-and-so is always saying such and such, and he goes to him without anything and says, sit down, you're going to be silent for 2 months, that's it. Now me, if you're on the other end, you have rights too. You can go to whatever board is in that church, or whatever governing body is, and says this is going on. Whatever counsel you have that handles that kind of thing to be heard. Because every allegation isn't necessarily true. That is the reality. You have some crazies. You really do. You know, it takes everything to make a good salad. You got lettuce. All y'all lettuce. You got some peas. Who look like peas. You got some corn. People, this is corn. You got some croutons. Little crunch. Every now and then you got to have some nuts. And then you got to good salad. And you learn how to deal with the nuts. And even if you don't eat the nuts, you know what you pick around and they still give you flavor. Right? You're going to remember sexual harassment like you ain't never been told before. But I do it this way because it's such an intense situation. It's such an intense subject. And in order for you to really get the essence, that's why I don't do handouts. Because I think when I talk to you and you have to write what I'm saying, you're going to remember it. I know when I go to a workshop and they hand me handouts, I start listening to the speaker. Because I say, well, I'm putting my phone, I can read it for you. Come on, y'all know you do that too. I got the hands out. I hate to pay attention. No, I can read this for myself. So I will give them. Because it provides for more interaction when you have to take notes on what I'm saying. So what do? In the secular world, when they're faced with sexual harassment, so this is good for when you're working on your job, not just necessarily in the church. This is true for you when you go to work. If you have a situation and you go to your employer, the employer is bound by the law. The employer is never excused because the law says that they should have known. They're not excused by saying, I didn't know. That's like a father's house running rampant if he don't know what's going on. Same thing. But as soon as you make the employer aware of what's going on, he has to take, and he says to you, what do you want done? You may say, I don't want nothing done right now. So what he might do is send a letter. Just a little light reminder of what the conduct policy is in the workplace. He sends a reminder, that's all. He hasn't violated your trust. He hasn't made you a victim. He just gave everybody a little reminder, said, get your handbooks out, everybody. We're going to go over the policy. Let me know if I'm going over time because I know you got somebody else. Because y'all can talk all night. You know, I can say all that. So, he sends a memo and nothing happens. He keeps doing it. Now you have to say to her, in order for this to change, the employer is not allowed to move that individual's seat, put him in another unit. There can be no action taken against that individual until a formal complaint is made, naming names. At which point, then the employer gets two parties together and go over the situation and ask for the two parties to try to come up with a remedy. By remedy, they both agree on what's going to happen. Now, the remedy could be that he gets moved to another unit. The remedy could be that she gets moved to another unit. Whatever's going to make the remedy could be he's on one shift, she's on another now. So the remedy is going to be something that will work for both of them. But if remedy can't be resolved and the individual still feels that they've got a case, they file a complaint with equal opportunities employment. They file a complaint, a formal complaint. And in that complaint, they cite what the complaint was, they cite what went on. It can be handled at that level, but at the same time, they have 180 days to file a complaint, Commission on Human Rights and Opportunity. That is over EEOC. So if you don't like what the Equal Opportunities Commission said, you can file one with CHRO because they're over it. And whatever decision they render, it stands. Sometimes there's punitive damages, sometimes there isn't. But you had a cause. You see what I'm saying? You have a mechanism. It behooves you to find out. If I have a complaint in the church, who do you go to? Not, you would go to your pastor first, right? Now, not that this would happen here in the beginnings, but if, say, you went to your pastor and he just didn't handle it the way you wanted, what would you do? I'm going to tell you what we do in this day and age. In this day and age, we go to the pastor. And who says something? What is that?
Social media.
Oh, yes, the proverbial social media. Ah, the graveyard, really. Social media, Jesus, it's good and it's bad. No, what we do now, we leave the church. Because now we got options. You know how I know we got options? Look up and down Dixwood Avenue. There's about 20 churches in a 2-block radius. You know what? You ain't got to remedy me. You ain't got to hear me. I can even go someplace else. In the meantime, the situation in your church ain't changed.
That's right. That's right.
It's not being dealt with. So leaving doesn't remedy anything. You go to your pastor and he will work it out. And if he ain't sure, he goes to somebody who can help him work it out. But there's going to be some remedy. That's what we have in the church. And I'm saying that you have steps that are taken on your behalf. You don't have to be a silent sufferer in the church. Right? You understand that? Good. So you got Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities for the secular world. We have our pastor and the structure of the church at the time. I know that's oh, good. Okay, I'll use it. I'm going to take those 7 minutes and see if anybody got a question. Anybody have a question about anything? Baby, there's a question. What is? No.
How do you deal with somebody when they come to work and they're one way? Then maybe the next time, I work 3 days on, 3 off. Then when they come back, they act totally different. I am talking about when I am a fireman. Sometimes they go quick.
I know.
But sometimes certain individuals, they come in one way and you deal with them in that angle, and then they come back and they're somebody totally different.
Shout out to people in church, ain't it? We coming one way one Sunday. We coming one way the next time.
Do you avoid them, or do you?
Is it something they're doing to you directly?
It's kind of indirect, but
It's just annoying.
Yeah.
It's just annoying. Okay? If they're not saying anything to you, they're not making your environment, they just acting crazy. They just come to work with an attitude. Got what I'm talking about?
Say it again.
They just come to work with an attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, what you have to understand is, in those 3 days off, you don't know what's going on in that person's life. And it takes them another 3 days almost to decompress and shake off whatever happened in the course of those 3 days. Have you ever tried approaching that brother or sister, say, listen, man, you all right? I'm afraid with you. Huh?
I never said that.
Oh. There's a window there, and that's what I'm saying. Everything isn't always as it appears. And you said 3 days off, 3 days off. Okay? In the course of his 3 days off, you don't know what he's dealing with. You just don't know. And it takes him coming to work and having to almost reboot himself to shake off whatever he left those 3 days. You just don't know. And sometimes it might be when you just say, can I pray with you? You know, you seem like you got something on your mind. It don't hurt. All he can say is no. At which point you just offer and you silently walk away and pray anyway.
I just want to make sure that's not harassing.
No. If he ain't gonna do it directly and he just walk around and being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, there's nothing you can do about that. That's the supervisor. Now when he started going to the supervisor, he got the problem. But if it's just him,
I am
then you better get over your job, buddy. Is it affecting his work?
Yes.
Then you need to call him in. As his supervisor, let me tell you a situation. And this isn't a harassment situation, but I had that happen to me. My supervisor did that to me. My son had a terrible accident in 1999. And I spent 8 months being his caregiver. Y'all heard this story. Spent 8 months being his caregiver. So I walked off my job, told him, if you can't give me family medical, you keep the job. Walked off my job. They gave me family medical. I was my son's. We were joined at the hip for 8 months. Because he was in ICU, I was in ICU. He would have stepped out, I would have stepped out. And when it was all over, and they cleared him, and I went back to work, I did not realize that I wasn't me anymore. I didn't realize it. I went to work every day. I sat at my desk, and I pretended to work. But I thought I was working. Every day. My supervisor called me in her office when there's some what's wrong. What is going on? I said, what do you mean? She said, I've been watching you. She said, you have been moving the same pieces of paper for the last 2 weeks. She said, I think that you are just getting to the trauma of your son's accident on yourself.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow. But it took somebody else to pull me and show me that something was going on with me. Do it for that brother. Call him in the office and say, brother, I noticed that you seem to struggle some. Men know how to talk to men. Have that conversation. You don't know what good that may do. Amen? Two more. I have a question.
Over there, that's the mic over there. Over there, the point.
Can you please explain mandated reporting? Is mandated reporting just for church leadership? When do church leaders, when are they mandated to report?
Okay, what are we reporting? I mean, sometimes child abuse is your mandated report.
So sexual abuse for an adult?
Again, you're talking about adult. And you cannot, you really don't, who are you mandated reporting to? There you go.
Right. So that's the question. When is church leadership obliged to contact law enforcement?
If it's an assault, that's one thing. If it's just harassment, that's another. So you have to be careful. But again, you have to factor that adult into whatever you do. Because if I've told you and I said, I don't want you saying nothing, and you do it, then I can come after you. As the leader, I can now come after you for breaching the pastor parishioner confidentiality. So that's why it's a slippery slope. And if it's an assault, you try to encourage that person to report it. Say, I will go with you. Because if you don't, and they have, you really have to empower them. But when you're talking about children, it's different. Every leader's a mandated reporter when it comes to a child because they can't defend themselves. But when you're talking adults, it's a little bit different. And they factor in to the equation, okay?
Thank you. That was good clarification for that.
Yes.
Lady Pullen, when you say child, though, what's the age?
What does DCF consider? 18 and you're no longer a ward of the state?
Yeah.
18. At 18.
18, so as long as they're under the age of 18.
Mm-hmm.
They're still considered.
and they come to you and they've been sexually assaulted, then you, as a, what you call, are mandated to report that. And if you don't report it, and it comes out later that you do, you're behind the eight ball. You're in trouble. That's the difference. When it's a minor, you are mandated, and it's assault, not harassment, but assault. Because now it's not physical being you're messing with. You have to report it. Where it goes after you report it is one thing, but you've done your job.
Is there a time stamp on it? Like
Most of the time,
at 5 and they don't tell you to?
it's, in some instances, I'm not sure what the statute of limitation is in the state of in Connecticut, but I don't really think they have one when it comes to minors. Because if you look at the Catholic Church, they're still paying out money for stuff that been done years ago. Okay? They dead and still paying out for both folks. So, again, know what you're required to do. It's children, and it's an assault. I don't care who it is. Well, say they didn't mean it. It was so. No, tell it. Because chances are it wasn't their first time doing it to somebody. You understand that? It wasn't their first time.
Could you go over the quid pro quo again?
Quid pro quo means this or that. It's a Latin. Quid pro quo, this or that. I will give you this if you sleep with me. That's it. And if you don't, then I'm going to take your job. If you don't, I'm going to take your position. If you don't, I'm going to make life miserable for you. That is quid pro quo. That help?
I have a question.
Okay.
You being sexually and physically abused in church, and you go to your pastor don't do anything. Should you go to the authorities?
You can. Because you said sexually assaulted?
Or physically?
You can always go to the authorities. You can always go to the authorities if you're being sexually assaulted in the church. Most definitely. The church is not exempt. But the thing about it is if you've got a good relationship with your pastor, he should at least know what's going on. So that the police don't roll up in the church one Sunday morning and get ready to arrest Joe Schmo and you don't even know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Let me say the police love to roll up in a black church. They love to do because they like to disrupt the worship. So you always have a right to go to the authorities. Whether it's the church, your home, wherever. But at least let your pastor know. Now, if he is ignoring you, then tell him and go to the authorities. But don't not do nothing about it. Because if you don't do nothing about it, it's not going to stop. And see, the thing about it is, silence doesn't mean consent. And silence doesn't mean you like it. Everybody does not have the oomph or the self-esteem or the assertiveness to stop someone or to speak out about something's being done to them. That's why you tell someone else. You get another voice who can help speak to you for you and a support system that can help undergird you. Because some people are just timid. They're not going to speak out. And so you have to kind of guide them through the process. Because again, predators prey on the weak. It's the law of survival. They're going to prey on the weak. Somebody have a question? Yes, ma'am.
So in ministry where we have the youth or children, what do you do if it's a minor harassing or minor?
Two minors harassing each other? You grab both of them by the collar and you bring them to the pastor. That's what you do, because that's bullying. That's bullying. So you bring it to the pastor. And if they're saying crude and sexual things, then you definitely bring it to the pastor. Because they're following sexual harassment students in elementary school. Because now it's not all boys will be boys no more. They're viewing it as sexual harassment. So now that you know, grab our power and say, come on, we're going to the pastor. We're going to nip this in the bud right now.
What happens?
That clears you.
What happens when it turns into assault?
And then minors, you tell the pastor, and then you make a referral to DCF. You're a mandated reporter. That's what you do. And again, let me tell you something. this is my last thing. Whatever you do with a situation, document. Date, time, place that they told you, what they said, document, and keep it in a file, because your memory will not always be intact. And what I remember last year, I don't remember as good this year. So while it's fresh, document the time, what they said, the incident, document it, and put it in a secure file. Go ahead.
So when I first got in the workforce a while back, there was flirtation between myself, another female, and we would go back and forth for some time. And then, of course, there's the one time where this female wasn't exactly susceptible to the flirtation, and then I ended up getting in trouble for it. So, I mean, what would you suggest besides...
Office romances. The best way to do it is avoid it. Because again, like you said, both of you were involved in it. It was cute, right? Then apparently all of a sudden she didn't want to flirt no more. And you became a problem. Did she ever say stop? What did she do? She went right to the supervisor? Did they hear you out?
No.
What did they do?
I just want to say, well, it was my first job, so they just gave me a written warning.
A written warning?
Yeah. And like, I knew the supervisor personally. He just basically said, Andre, I've seen you guys go back and forth. Obviously, that one time she must have, whatever.
Then why did he give you a written warning?
That's what I said. I don't know.
See, I raised my eyebrow. He knew the situation, but at that point, he should have brought both of you in and set you both down. If he gonna put something in your file, then something should have been in her file too. Oh, no, you're not gonna do that to me. Especially if you can tell me that you witnessed it.
Right.
Oh, no. He should have, what the proper thing would have been to do. See, this is why you need to know what you need to know. You should have said, well, wait a minute. You could have said, wait a minute. I want a chance to sit down with you and her. At which point, they say, okay, what's going to be the remedy? Because we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. Fine. But you're not going to write nothing in my file and not in her. That's why you need to know what you need to know about what your rights are and how to handle things appropriately. Okay? If you have any problems, you can feel free not to call me.
Did you enjoy it or what? That's my first lady of the show. Amen. I thought it was very important for us to have this type of dialogue